Good evening, everyone. I'm Ashley Banfield. Welcome to the second hour of Crime and Justice. If you were ever the least bit suspect of those preachers who appear on TV, if you were ever the least bit leery of the way they ask you for money over and over and over again, especially late at night in those infomercials, then you might find yourself a little bit outraged by the story I'm about to tell you. I want you to meet Pastor Todd Coontz of Charlotte, North Carolina. Good-looking guy, got a real presence. But he's accused of filling his pockets with the money he made as a minister. A traveling televangelist said to have reached tens of millions of people all around the world, encouraging all them good Christians to just give.
God says, bring the tithe and the offerings to me and see if I won't open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing you can't contain. When you bring the tithe to God and you make offerings to God, it sets you up to be blessed by God. As you lead them, I pray blessings over your life, increase over your life, promotions, bonuses, unexpected money, favor. God wants to set you free. God wants to deliver you today. I speak it now. You will live and not die. I rebuke that disease. I love being your pastor and your evangelist today. Know that I'm praying for you.
But send me money, you know? Send me money and everything's going to work out. So the message that he gave over and over was give and you will receive. But Pastor Todd may have received a whole lot more than anybody else he preached to. Because while his audience was doing all that nice tithing to him, the feds say he was driving around in a Ferrari or maybe his Maserati, hanging out in his $1.5 million condo and enjoying expensive seafood dinners and an unbelievable designer wardrobe, and allegedly hiding all those earnings, or at least a big part of them, from the feds. And you know that he would not be the first man of God to forget to practice what you preach.
Who has saved me and washed me and cleansed me.
We love you, Brenda. She will be watching.
I have sinned against you, my Lord.
When there weren't very many standing with us. And the songs that you wrote, Mike.
And I would ask that your precious blood would wash and cleanse.
And your songs literally kept me alive, and I want to thank you for writing those songs.
He said, you tell Brenda for me that I love her.
Until it is in the seas of God's forgetfulness.
Anybody else notice how much Jen Crouch looks like Tammy Faye Baker? Like, I actually thought it was her at first, and I'm like, no, that's a whole other one. That's a whole other lady on TV asking for money, and then bad stuff happens after. Hand to God, I am so thankful for Pete Evans, because Pete is the lead investigator for the Trinity Foundation, looks into all that nasty stuff that goes on with churches that aren't real churchly. Trial attorney Randy Kessler is with me as well. I want to begin with Crime and Justice producer Kyle Peltz, who's been working this story. And Kyle, you kind of had to sort your way through a lot of ugliness that masks itself in luxury. Because when I look at the stuff that Todd Coontz had, that costs a lot of money, and you got to do a lot of TV pitches to get that much money. Characterize this guy's life for me.
Right. So this guy, Pastor Todd Coontz, he's the founder and minister at a ministry called Rock Wealth International Ministries. Now, prosecutors describe this as a ministry without a physical church. Instead, he would travel to other churches and he would appear on those religious television programs. And according to his bio on the ministry website, he actually had a daily television broadcast called Faith Now, which reached 90 million homes and aired around the world in 200 countries.
90 million homes, my God, if you just got a buck from each one. Imagine how many Ferraris and Maseratis and Land Rovers and Range Rovers. Oh, actually, we don't have to imagine it, because Kyle, you found the list. You actually found the court docs that list out all of the vehicles this fella has. Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, so prosecutors say Pastor Coontz actually used houses and cars which were in the names of his various companies and ministry. He also had a media company that would produce those books and DVDs that he would sell, as well as a financial services firm. But the list of vehicles purchased by his companies and his ministry in the span of what looks to be 2 years, 2011 to 2013, is extensive. Everything from BMWs to Ferraris, Maseratis, and even a boat.
Okay, so we were like just sort of cycling through some of the photographs. It kind of looks like a commercial, but the truth is, if you were to actually hear the list, a 2011 BMW, a 2011 Regal 2500 boat, a 2012 BMW convertible, a 2011 Lexus, a 2011 Land Rover, a 2006 Ferrari, a 2012 Maserati, a 2013 BMW, a 2013 Land Rover, a 2012 Ferrari. What the heck? Were these all for him, or did other people in his family get cars? Like, how could you possibly even park that many?
Well, prosecutors say actually other family members would be driving these cars, but the cars weren't it. I mentioned residences, and in 2012, his ministry purchased a $1.5 million condo for him.
So what's sort of ironic about all of this is that his ministry is all about faith and finance, and he's actually authored a number of books on faith and finance. I want to just read a couple of the titles. One of the first ones was called Please Don't Repo My Car. And that's the cover of that book right there, How My Financial Life Changed in 24 Hours. Breaking the Spirit of Debt. Supernatural Debt Cancellation, There is Life After Debt. 7 Myths About Money. What you think you may know about money will bankrupt you. That first one, Please Don't Repo My Car. Kyle, any idea if they've repoed all those luxury vehicles? Do you know where those cars are?
Right. Actually, that's I'm sure it'll come out at trial, but no idea where those cars are as of now.
Okay, so he also allegedly had a huge hankering for cash purchases, and they have discovered, I don't know how, because cash is hard to track, but they've discovered some of the stuff that he bought in cash, which is not the way us lowly godlike beings would use cash. What did he do? What did he buy?
Right. So prosecutors say he would actually get checks for various things and then cash them and kind of hide that money. But between 2012 and 2013, prosecutors say he was buying things in cash at David Yurman, which is a designer jewelry store. He also made purchases at Mont Blanc, which has luxury watches and other things, and Diamonds Direct, which is another jewelry store. And these were big purchases, too.
Look at the amounts.
Over $21,000 to the jewelry store, $3,000 to Mont Blanc, and over $14,000 to another jewelry store.
How do you carry $14,000 off to Diamonds Direct, the jewelry store at the mall? How do you just walk in with $14,000 in cash? Because like you said, it's not a check. These are cash purchases. And apparently, you would think those are the kinds of things you'd give to a nice lady that you like, but he had a divorce. And the estranged wife is on the witness list. What's she going to say? Do we know?
Right. We know prosecutors have his estranged wife on the witness list. And if she takes the stand in his trial, she's supposed to testify about his excesses, his clothes, the cash he had laying around the house, and jewelry.
It's amazing. By the way, if in case you're wondering how much money, is coming in, even as we do this story, if you were to call the Rockwell Ministries like our producers did today, the first thing you hear, the very first thing you hear on the phone, before it's like, hi, how are you, and what's your name, is, are you, I love this, are you ready to sow your $1,000 seed today? And the first thing they'd hear from me is, no, I want to speak with Mr. Coontz, please, But that's apparently the way they answer the phone at that ministry. And still, even now, as we're facing this incredibly ironic situation that he's, in a lot of trouble over money. I want to mention something else, Kyle, the business expenses, because I've seen business expenses that are ridiculous before, but these are unbelievable. Go over the whole list of what he was writing off.
Right. So prosecutors say from 2010 to 2013, 3 years, his companies, his ministry and his various companies, they paid business expenses, which should have been either all or at least partially personal expenses for Pastor Todd. Now, those included over $100,000 for meals and entertainment. That included movie tickets, Red Lobster, even Panera Bread. And his ministry also paid over $200,000 for what they call his TV wardrobe. Again, at least some of which should have been considered personal. And then there's also a $4,000 sum legal expense, which prosecutors say was actually for his divorce. And they say his mom, Todd's mom, was even paid by his businesses to the tune of over $50,000 for, quote, contract services.
Maybe she was really, really, really fast at typing. You never know. Let me bring in Pete Evans. Pete, the Trinity Foundation looks into this kind of garbage. You vet these things. You find out who's cheating in the religious world of televangelism.
We have for a long time.
And the reality is that this is not the first time we've all been to this rodeo. We've seen the Swaggarts. We've seen Jim and Tammy Faye. We've seen, Jan Couch. And we just played all their, crocodile tears.
Yeah. We've seen it again very often.
Characterize this one for me, because it isn't wrong to be rich. But there is some wrongness about the way he's reported it to the government. Or is it wrong to be rich when you're asking people to send $1,000 in seed money?
Okay. Well, the sad thing is that he's doing this in the name of God. He's lying to people, and this seed faith theology, you opened with his comment when you first called on the phone. The first thing you heard was sow your seed. And this seed faith theology tells people that if they plant a certain amount of money, God's going to multiply that amount and give it back. And people who are desperate for a miracle, they've got a relative dying of cancer, or they're desperate for a financial miracle, they're willing to try anything to get money. And so that's the sad thing, are the victims.
Don't you find it odd as well, Mr. Evans, that you can bust this stuff open, but Jim and Tammy Faye Baker had supporters regardless. I mean, it didn't matter what you said about the hypocrisy, the stealing, the misappropriation.
And he's back on television,
Right? And these people will still follow.
Right.
Is this one of your biggest hurdles, is not just to get the information out there, but somehow to get the information believed?
That's true. In fact, somebody who's a follower of one of these televangelists, like his fellow televangelist, Benny Hinn, who's also under investigation right now by the Criminal Investigation Division of the IRS and the Postal Division, they use this same seed faith theology, and it's just it breaks my heart.
It's ungodly. Let's say that it's ungodly. And hold for 1 second. Randy Kessler, as an attorney, I'm looking at the charges, okay? It's not that he's an ungodly man and taking money from people who are old and can't sleep at night and are watching these things and being convinced that if you pay now, you'll get this many blessings, but if you pay faster, we'll double it. The charges are failing to pay tax, 3 counts, and aiding and assisting in filing false tax returns. But the charges aren't you're an awful man, right? So what actually, if he's found guilty, would he be facing for these particular charges?
So, that's interesting, because there are different levels of accountability, accountable to your parishioners, to your followers, but we're talking about the law. The law is pretty clean cut. If you paid business, personal expenses and didn't count it as income, if you earn money and you're paid by your company and you use it to buy dinner, then you pay taxes on it, because that was income that you earned, you pay taxes on it. But if you have your company buy you dinner so that you don't have to take a salary and buy yourself dinner, that's tax evasion, that's tax fraud. That's going to be a clean-cut case. The bigger problem for the general public is, like your former guest said, the followers are going to follow him. These people, Jimmy Swaggart, they love them, they follow them, they forgive. And that we can't fix. All we can do is prosecute for violations of the law. Looks like they've got him on some legal violations. I don't know about the rest of it.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm gonna have to leave it there, but we'll see how the justice system treats him, and then at some point we'll see how God treats him. Well, we probably won't see that, right? Pete, thank you. Thank God for what you do.
Thank you,
really
Ashley.
appreciate it. Pete Evans joining us. Randy Kessler, as always, thank you. I'm going to ask you to stick around, and great job reporting to our Kyle Peltz.